What's up, Gromies? Welcome back to Arroyo Office Hours Live, episode 138, your source for free cannabis cultivation education. I'm your host, Cian, here with our Director of Applied Technology, Jason Van Leuven. Today, we've got some special guests. We're joined by Tyler Snell and Adam Redding from Certified Cultivators out of Ohio. I've been diving into their story a little bit, and this is what's caught my attention. They're a third-generation family business that transformed an auto parts facility into a state-of-the-art cultivation and processing operation. American ingenuity and family dedication, that's just kind of what built the whole industry we're in right now. Before we dive in, let's meet our guests. Tyler, let's start with you. Tell our groomers who you are.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy to be on the show. My name is Tyler Snell. I'm the Director of Operations here at Certified Cultivators for cultivation and post-harvest. I've been growing for about 15 years in total, 4 years at scale in commercial cannabis. I would say I really got into cannabis around 14, 15 years old, just kind of partaking with my friends and just starting to enjoy it at that time. And, 5, 6 years later, I built my first grow room and had the luxury of just kind of building it from the ground up and trying to do things the right way to start. It's kind of been the path or the start of the path that led me here.
That's a great way to get into the industry. Mimics a lot of stories I think most of us probably have to tell on that page. Adam, how about you?
Adam Redding. I am the Integrated Pest Management and Irrigation Manager here at Certified. I've had an affinity for cannabis since little kid. About 12 years old. But I have always loved growing things. My parents were avid gardeners. Ever since I was a little kid, been in the garden with them. Kind of grew into what I do now, about 15 years, 16 years of cannabis cultivation, 4 years in the Ohio regulated medical recreational space. And soil grower by trade, nature, and then salts here at work.
That's awesome. Well, before we jump into the rest of the story, what's something you guys are psyched about that you guys have been doing lately over at Certified?
I think for me, there's a lot of things going on right now. We have an expanding market and an emerging market in Ohio. But, I think one of my favorite things about what we're doing and what we're building is just the team and the culture that we foster every day. I think it's a rare find to find the people that we have in this building and the people that kind of build what we're doing today. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of life in every room and every department you walk into. And, I've been to a lot of grows, a lot of facilities that are as gray as the wall. And, no knock to them, you got to do what you got to do. But there's a lot of life in our facility, and I think it's come with a lot of just grind, drive, focus, right? And you got a lot of people with passion who all are on the same page and aligned and after a common goal. And, regardless of what department we're in, we've really kind of built just an incredible team. I think that's the thing I'm the most proud about of kind of what we're doing here at Certified today.
It shows. It definitely shows. Sorry to butt in here, but
no, you're good, bro.
It's one of the things I've been thinking about kind of all week to talk with you guys about. And that is just simply how well you promote each other at your jobs. It's not very often that I get to work with people that are so kind, compassionate, and just really want each other to succeed in each other's roles.
It genuinely, as Tyler said, if we had a superpower as a company, as an entity, it would be our teamwork. We are a massive team now. I mean, when Tyler and I started, Nate Foley, who is our cultivation manager, 4 years ago, approximately, it was a very small staff, 28 people, 30 something people. We're now at 170 strong. 170 plus. It's all about the team at the end of the day. So many people do so much on the daily to keep it moving ahead and just getting better on the daily, really.
I just can't stop thinking about how highly Jason's spoken about this exact topic. And I mean, you guys should be very proud. The cannabis industry it's a tough space to maintain a positive working environment and a culture that promotes rather than, leaves people feeling a little bit wasted and used up at the end of the day. I talk to a lot of people that are definitely on the latter side of that scale. And how highly Jason has spoken of the culture and the crew at Certified. It speaks volumes to what you guys are doing there and the environment and the attitude you're cultivating with your crew.
Yeah, it's also trust. At the
Yeah,
end
I
of the
think
day.
got a lot of trust and just respect for each other. But, this is probably the best crew of people I've ever had the pleasure of working with or really being around. Everybody pushes the bar higher every single day and sets our standards higher without really pushing them or asking them to do so. They do it of their own accord. And just to see everybody come together and, I don't know, make this what it is, with cannabis being such a struggle at times and, with some of these industries just being such a challenge and Ohio being a challenge overall. Yeah, it's awesome to see the positivity that we all promote and push on each other every day.
It's a great way to keep a strong business and a great company culture. I think you guys are probably promoting a pretty happy, I would say, more to the effect of a cooperative family style business, the way we all sort of think about it.
Tyler, you want to hit that? I would say that you hit the nail on the head, truthfully. I mean, these are people who, at the end of the day, I'm spending more time with than my own family, who I have to have implicit trust in the scale that we deal with on a daily basis, what we have to do. And that's all departments. It's across the board. I mean, we started off small, but we've grown bigger and stronger in every department. And it's facing little challenges, facing big challenges together, but every day really looking for that collective win at the end, if you will.
I got to reiterate that teamwork because, a lot of times I show up at a site and I feel lucky to get someone's time there at the site to share some information, go over their Roya systems, just get familiar with everything that's going on. And, I showed up, obviously, just probably whim of the hair, called to Tyler, "Hey, I'm going to be around your area. Can we drop through?" And, lucky enough, got to hang out with him, Nate, and Adam, and they introduced me to the owner there as well. And you're sweet, good picture from Instagram post back there a couple of years ago.
2 years ago to the day, I believe.
That's perfect. I got to walk through the facility with all three of you, nailing the aspects that is the pinnacle of your experience. And that's really one, it's educational for me, and hopefully you guys get a little piece to step your game up with each one of those.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think just as you came in the facility, we got to learn a lot from you and just kind of, talk shop, shoot the shit a little bit. And, I think you gave us some pointers at the time and we made some adjustments. And honestly, 2 years ago, it feels like such a short amount of time, but that was a long time ago for where we're at today. And I'm excited to see you come back and kind of just see the progress we've made, the changes we've made, and just, it's all been positive, beneficial for the most part.
Yeah, man, you told us to bump up EC, and sure enough, we did. And what do you know? We did way better.
Lucky one.
I gotta love that one.
Right.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about this business you guys are in and how it came to be. Can you guys tell us a little bit about how this whole thing got started?
Absolutely. So yeah, our owners, Mike Wepper and Zach Wepper, father, son, I believe around 2016 or so, they were sharing a joint, just having a conversation somewhere in Columbus. And we're just talking about the current state of Ohio and getting ready to get into cannabis. And they were considering leasing out this building or facility that we're in today to another operator or grower and just kind of using that to be their financial means for this building. And then while they're sharing that joint and just kind of talking and conversating, I guess came across the question or popped it up, why not us? Why don't we do this? I believe that was 2016, and that kind of sparked a journey for where we're at today. They put in a lot of effort. They started kind of putting together what it takes to get the licenses, getting everything prepared. They fought a long battle and eventually won their license for a level 1 cultivation facility and a processing license. I believe we got the license in 2018, so it was a long 2-year journey. And then after that, I think they kind of just realized like, oh shit, we're here. How do we do this? How do we navigate this space? How do we operate the space? So, and I think, obviously you mentioned family-owned business. This facility's been here for 30 years in the Wepper family. It's been a lot of different things from a car parts business and warehouse to a dog kennel to storage to many different things that I really can't even name. And, here we are today. I think they've put a lot of effort into people and finding the right people to operate with them and to just help grow and build. And I think that's really the start of the journey that led us to where we are today.
I think your culture speaks to the success they've had in that endeavor.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, let's jump a little bit more into our cultivation segments as we go in here. I want to talk a little bit about the double tier setups you guys are running right now. You guys tell us a little bit about what equipment you guys are running and kind of what your program is there as far as your cultivation is concerned.
You want to take that one?
Sure. So our the double tiered is actually our veg space. We have 9 production rooms. They are all single tier tables. And then we have our veg space, which is, can't remember now off the top of my head, 36 tables, double tiered. It's a considerable space. Am I correct on that? Yeah, I'm correct on that. Just checking my numbers in my head. 36 double tiered. We've got on one side, we've got Spec Grade, the Flora series. And on the other side, we've got the FOS F1Bs. And it's fantastic. It was a game changer for us. We brought that on actually. It was a little bit right around the time that Jason was initially in the facility. It's taken us time to kind of dial in the space, get everything right, get our procedures right. Throughout that, we transitioned from really, large pot sizes, 3-gallon pots, all the way down to 1s at one point in time. Now we're sitting at close to a 2. It churns out plants. We every week it gets filled. We do 600 give or take plants per production room per week get transplanted. Plus on top of that, various other strain rooms, etc. We have 4 R&D rooms and on top of the 9 production rooms. It's amazing to see the difference. We were rocking the Lux. What were those, Tyler?
The ADRs
down there, transitioned those out within the last little bit, and now we're really kind of trialing those 2 lights against each other, see what's best.
So as Spec Grade, they're out of Ohio as well, I believe. Is that right? One of the reasons you guys went with them?
Columbus-based.
Okay.
They're a Columbus-based company. I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of the reasons. It definitely was a positive and it helped, but we just really enjoyed the product that we got to try from them.
Cool.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And to be putting those kinds of numbers through your production rooms, that veg space has got to be quite the dialed orchestration.
It honestly, it's the veg team, the mom prop team, the cultivation team down there, clones, everything. I'll let Tyler speak on it, but the success rate of everything in this facility is really driven by that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would say, the nail on the head, it's really the team, right? But it's came with a lot of challenges in that space. It's a new thing for us. We weren't really sure how to operate double tiered. We weren't really sure how to operate with a lot of new equipment in a new space. And it's taken us a lot of time just to dial in our environments, dial in the humidity, dial in the amount of airflow in the room, get the right equipment in the room after the initial build out, because it took time to kind of get everything in place for really what we needed. It can be a challenge, right? Adam mentioned it, there's 36 tables in that room that can fit roughly, I believe, 6 production rooms in there and about 4,200 plants max. So, we're not quite there stuffing it to that degree yet, but as we get ready for our expansion, we will be, we'll be there probably mid-September, early October.
One of the things that really struck me, and I'm looking at some of your pictures here as well, and they've got Tyler, you standing in the dry room, and the floor is like shiny clean, and like so many dry rooms I've been in, have just got loads of crumbs and all the stuff falling off the plants. And you talk about the hard work and the challenges. And one of the things that really stood out at the facility there was just the attention to detail, how clean everything was. Struck my head when you said, oh, it's been a dog kennel, it's been this and that. And it's like, you would have no idea that this wasn't just a purpose-built facility once you're inside the doors.
Yeah, I would say, we're really like 70, 80% janitors. We're a very OCD team. We want the best for ourselves. We want to smoke the cleanest medicine, the cleanest product out there. We don't want to have, mold issues, pest issues, problems. We're very proud of just how clean everything is in this building, and Adam can attest to this more than I can, but, you can't hardly find a pest in this building that we didn't put out on purpose, right? We don't have fungus gnats. We don't have issues. And I think it really speaks volumes to just how clean we are and maintaining that cleanliness so that we don't have any issues or any problems that do arise.
I was just bringing that up because that's one of those things where like a lot of us, we see the cycle start at veg, and at facilities like you guys, you're clearly dedicated to a step before any plant touching activities, any plant growing activities, and that is that sanitization.
Absolutely. And that's in really every facet of it. It is a part of the IPM regiment, for lack of a better term, throughout the building, or the protocols. It is cultural completely in every way. The simple things that we do make a big difference across the board. People take real pride in the cleanliness of the space, the cleanliness of their rooms, our leads, the techs, everybody. They know the importance of it too. At the end of the day, you leave enough detritus, debris around, there's going to be a problem pop up. You don't take care of a problem, it's only going to grow bigger. They, if anything, are the ones to raise the alarm if there's anything, untoward or a lack of attention to detail, cleanliness, etc. So it's ultra vital. It's ultra vital. Ohio's super stringent. We're 10,000 CFUs testing wise. Anything we can do to ensure, as Tyler said, the cleanest products that we can possibly provide. Ultra vital.
Yeah, with that limit, which is the challenge in Ohio and the microbial counts, we don't remediate anything. We use no rad source, we use no x-ray. So, it can be a challenge to pass our flower to get it out on the market, right? And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe we're like a 92% pass rate over time. I think we would have failed a very small portion of our flower over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's a fantastic pass-fail rate compared to lots of places. And the fact that you guys aren't using any, radiation style stuff to be able to limit microbials, that's, it's an impressive operation that you guys run. And like I said, it's impressive on the one hand, even to just have a facility that is capable of running the type of precision that you need to be able to have one veg room supply that many plants to that many rooms on that tight schedule, let alone to be able to do that with that style or that high of a pass fail rate in your regulation testing. It's a rare sight to see for sure. So you guys are definitely doing something right there. And to speak to the company culture that you guys are talking about, one of your people, Ashley Crouch, I don't know if she's a current or former employee, but she says, "Go certified. Those my people. The absolute best job I've ever had."
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that. Shout out to Ashley.
Getting rave reviews like that without getting asked to throw them in, you guys are doing something right for sure.
Not going to lie, the other day there was somebody who came through. We have, honestly, on a weekly basis, we have a lot of people who come through our facility just to do a tour in some way, shape, or form. But it was that question was posed, and without a doubt, for me, I'm 46 years old. This is the best job I've ever had in my entire life, bar none, not even close. Best people I've worked with, period.
It
We keep
shows.
talking about culture earlier. I mentioned that, our team just pushes the bar higher every day without being asked to, right? Like they hold you accountable. They hold themselves accountable. If there's something going on, Adam mentioned it. You got a leaky drain. You got something that's building algae. You got mold in pots somewhere. We're finding some pests. You're finding some herms. They will bring it to your attention very quickly, and they're wanting an answer. They're holding us accountable the same way that we're holding them accountable. And we're able to lean pretty much any way in this facility on anybody and know that we're still going to be successful regardless of what's going on. It's pretty impressive.
Truly embodying, you're truly living the teamwork makes the dream work principle, man. It's
Trying to.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get a little bit back into the cultivation a little bit. So what kind of substrates you guys run in that facility, you said?
Cocoa.
Cocoa all the way through. That's awesome to see. I love cocoa myself. It's just a little easier at those scales. What size pots you running?
1 to 2 gallons, just depending on the room and kind of what we're doing. We got some Floraflex ones, a little bit bigger. It's more like a 1.5 or closer to a 1.5. And then we've got some charcoal bags right now that we're experimenting with and using, and they are a 2 gallon, but it's a true nursery tube. So almost about the same size as the Floraflex 1.5, just a little bit more medium.
All right. How do you guys make your decisions on what gets run in what size, which size pot there?
I think a lot of it comes down to kind of experimentation, right? Just having the right conversations with the right people. We got a lot of good connections. Just want to say, like, shout out to our guy, Rob at GrowGen. He's been a big resource for us and just kind of a one-stop shop for where we can get everything we need for the grow. And it makes it easy. He's a great guy. He'll get back to you on vacation. He gets back to us very quickly. He gets us a quote, gets us an order, and also give us insight on what they've got or what they have available. So, we like to pick other people's brains as much as we can, make sure we're making the right decision, but we'll get, a small trial of something in. We'll R&D it for a couple months. We'll see where we're at with it. And then, we'll make a decision at that point. So we'll say a lot of times, it takes really 6 to 12 months for us to know if something works. We make one decision, see a change. You got to see it all the way through. You got to see it twice to make sure it's not a fluke. By that point, we're 6 to 12 months in and potentially making another change and got to start a new R&D or a new process.
It's it's interesting. It's so many people don't have access to dedicated R&D spaces in their grow operations, and it was really cool to see some of the experiments or I guess it's better to say trials and controlled tests that you guys were doing at the R&D. Go ahead.
No. It's one of my favorite things about what we get to do, truthfully. We have 4, for lack of a better term, R&D rooms. We have ISO 1, 2, 3. And through those, we run our pheno hunts. We get to trial different nutrients. We get to trial different lights. We get to trial different foliar applications. We get to trial anything you can potentially think of. We've trialed it pretty much. And bag sizes, pith, what the actual aggregate is in that bag, what's it made up of. We've gone through everything, and I think that's really what's aided us in getting to where we're at. It's a luxury to have the ability to trial things and at the end of the day find what things work well, but then what works best. And that's really been helpful for us in every facet of what we do.
Love that philosophy personally. It's, I think it's that trial and error, man. That's part of what's helped me get so much better over time, is having a space where I wasn't afraid to, run something that might not work as well and just see what the results were.
Sometimes you got to find out, right?
Limited liability learning.
Yes.
Depends on
I'd say we're. Oh, sorry, Cian. I feel like we're really blessed in our I don't know, just our operation here every day that, we're not put inside of a box. We're able to kind of create the box or the blueprint that is what happens in cultivation every day, right? Like, obviously we have parameters and we have things we have to operate inside. We've got to, ask for things and kind of go about the right way to get what we need. But we've built an incredible bridge from cultivation and the team in cultivation to our administration, our owners in the office, and just we communicate very well every day. They've got an understanding of what we need. We've got an understanding of what they need, and it's a really nice balance. And it's just a blessing to be able to help create the blueprint rather than being given one and say, hey, operate inside this box. And that's all you can do.
Amen.
Absolutely. Tell me about the processing side of stuff. How do you guys get the product moving from those production rooms into that final dry phase? How do you guys do that? You have 1 dry room, 2 dry rooms, and what's your general process on that? Are you running a standardized dry time, cure time on everything? Or are you guys kind of picking and choosing the way you do that substrate, choose what goes in for how long, when, and where?
I would say space is one of our biggest constraints. So, we do have 3 dry rooms, allow us to kind of make a little bit of different decisions if we have an extra one open. But for the most part, it is about a one size fits all. We're about a 7 to 10 day dry, just depending on what gets bucked first and what comes down. And obviously, we're trying to always feel for moisture or what makes the most sense to buck it as soon as you come into the room on Monday and what you leave for Wednesday, Thursday at the end of the week. But we try to operate at 60 degrees and 60 humidity as much as we can throughout that 7 to 10 days. We do try to crash the humidity for the first 3 days as much as possible, aiming for like a 45, 50% humidity in the room. But it's not quite that easy for us to get that low in those rooms at times. So, we don't have the most optimal built dry rooms. And as we get into our next expansion, that's kind of one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, is having well-built dry rooms with the right equipment, the right airflow, and just being able to really fine tune or dial in our cure and our dry process. Because, I don't want to say it's a limiting factor. I think we've done very well with the space that we have, but there's always room for improvement, right? And I'm really excited to get into what's next for us in these new phases so that we can have the product that we all want and not have inconsistencies, trying to be as consistent as we can through every run and every dry.
Well,
consistency is key.
Yeah, you guys must be doing a pretty good job. I was kind of doing a little Google searching before the show just to see what things are like out there. I personally haven't tested your product, but a lot of times the Reddit reviews are almost always very mixed for any company. And for you guys, it was quite unanimous in the Ohio market that people were either, "Hey, this is the only thing I buy. This is my go-to," or "Every time I get it, it's what I want, what I expect."
That's what we're aiming for.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Key. I mean, that kind of was going to lead me into my next question too, which was whether or not your dry rooms and some parts of that facility are all purpose built, or whether you have, adapted and evolved over time to meet the needs of what you guys figured out you were ultimately capable of growing.
Say a little bit of both, right? We have a confined space and we're running out of space every day. We're always constantly trying to find somewhere new to adapt to a new product or something new that we're trying to bring online. Like, for example, a challenge we're getting ready to face is pre-rolls. They're getting ready to come online in Ohio, and, where do we put it? Where do we, grind some of this flour? Where do we pack it? Don't really know yet. So we face those same challenges in the dry rooms at the moment. While, yes, purposeful built as they were meant to be dry rooms when we went in, but it's a retrofitted space, a very small dry room with quite a few DUs in there, a lot of heat blowing on plants, a lot of airflow blowing on plants. It's not quite optimal or what we want, but we make the best use out of it that we can. And that's why I say we're really looking forward to getting to our next dry room. So that way, it can be a much more consistent environment, just all the way around for everything.
I think that leads right into the next sets of questions that I had, which is kind of about your future scaling plans and where you guys are think you're going to be going next with expansions, and what you're itching to try and do there in the future.
We've got an expansion underway right now. Next door, it's going to bring us from what's currently 24,000 square feet to, I believe, 40,000 square feet. It's going to be a massive addition. Going to be addition of grow rooms, dry rooms, irrigation space, and it's a multi-phased potential build out. Really, this being the initial phases of it. Tyler,
that's awesome to hear. Those big expansions, they don't happen without a lot of hard work happening on the front end for you guys, because you weren't able to spend the money to expand and make that jump without doing very well to be able to get everything to move that direction. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's exactly it though. The past 4 years are what has made the expansion now not just a reality, but truly a possibility of success. Without the past 4 years and the trials and tribulations that we've been through, that would be kind of foolhardy, if you will. But with everything that we've learned from, past 4 years, like I said, till now, the team that we've built too, on top of that, the knowledge that everybody's gained along the way, it puts us in a really good spot as everything comes online.
I think the one thing, that Adam didn't necessarily mention or touch on, is as we're expanding to 40,000 square foot, the plans are to expand to 100,000 square foot down the street. We actually own the block next to us, and we will be building, 2 to 3 football fields long of cultivation facility and space. And everything right now is being put completely back into the business, completely put back into the facility. It's not like there's things being taken out or things happening. We're not making different market moves and trying to make it to different states and different industries at the moment. It's all being invested right back into Certified here in Dayton, Ohio. So it's wild to see it all come together. Looking at the building next door, it's coming up very quickly, and our time's coming. We're going to go from 9 production rooms to 18. We're currently on a strict 9-week cycle. It's where we harvest every Monday. We clean our rooms every Tuesday, refill them every Wednesday like clockwork. We're going to add a second harvest into that schedule, and we'll start doing 2 harvests a week. And as you add an R&D harvest to that, there will be times we have 3 harvests a week, and fresh frozen will make it 4 at times. So there's a lot of challenges to come ahead, but I think we're really excited, and we've got the team prepared and ready to tackle what's next and start jumping these hurdles.
That's so exciting for you guys. I've been to many of facilities that were funded, external funding, VC stuff, and they a lot of times struggle. They've tried to buy some of the best talent in the industry, or try to get all of the pieces to fit into the operation. And it's so fun for me to see people that have put the work in, who have built teams, who have built the skills, and now you're building out even more facility. 24,000 square foot, that's no joke to run in the first place. So I'm sure you guys are ready for it.
As prepared as we can be, I think. So we're excited.
Yeah. Lots of opportunities for growth. Increase your tools, increase your skill set, everything. So it's a lot of people chomping at the bit to kind of get it underway.
Man, I just keep thinking how impressive that is that you guys are making those expansion plans so detailed that you're able to double your square footage under cultivation twice in the upcoming, say 5-year plan there. That's a very aggressive expansion strategy, and it takes a lot of precision and dedication, and I would say a lot of what's the one I'm looking for? Discipline. Because there's a lot of places out there that you see that take a lot of money out of their businesses early on. They're excited that it's everything doing well, but reinvesting like that repeatedly to the point that you guys are is a difficult thing for some ownerships to imagine doing. And I got to say, the results are going to speak for themselves as you guys are continually able to keep hitting those expansion benchmarks and goals. What do you guys think your biggest challenges are right now in that expansion or in those potential expansion plans coming up in the future for you?
There's plenty.
I'll take this one real quick.
Do it, bro.
I think the hardest thing is going to be, or the most challenging thing is going to be, is how do we protect the culture that we've built today? Right. We'll be looking to add, probably about double the team, 1.5 times the team bare minimum, and bringing in most likely some people from outside, because just how do you fill those shoes? How do you fill what we need without doing so? We've only got such a pool from here, and everybody's got so much interest, and I think people are pretty happy in their departments right now. So, we'll really start to kind of see what that looks like as we have an influx of people. But I think our biggest challenge is just going to be, how do we protect that culture? And I'm not, have no hesitation or fear that we're going to be able to do that. It's just, continue to operate the way we are and keep pushing that level of success.
It's definitely one of those things that's difficult to maintain as you scale. And I think it's more difficult sometimes than, just procuring the durables and things like that you're going to need to stand the place up. And I think the fact you're thinking about that ahead of time is probably going to make a world of difference in whether or not you're successful in getting those people through the door.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Tyler hit it. It's, I think the teams, everybody in here, what we've learned best to do is adapt and overcome, a tangible problem, something we can get our hands around, where we're going to do our best to choke it out and get it done. But it's those things that you can't really affect so easily that are the concerns.
It's another astute observation. It's a lot of times the things we can't control that are the big hurdles to jump.
We say it all the time, control your controllables as much as you can.
Love that. Well, let's jump a little bit into a few questions from our followers out there. You know, we've had a few weeks off from answering live questions. So since we've got you guys on here today, we're going to put you to work a little bit with answering some of our cultivation questions. Hope you guys don't mind.
Let's do it. I'd love to.
All right. So this first one here, we're going to be talking about irrigation strategy a little bit. You guys who wants to field that one?
I'll start it off. See where it goes.
Sounds good, Adam. So we got a question from Daryl. He's asking about his P2 timing in his flower cycle about day 10. He's asking if he should add a P2 after day 21 or start to go generative now. He's in a 1-gallon cocoa with 3-foot plants. He's got a 50% dry back overnight. What's your take?
What is he intending to do? How is he trying to grow this plant? A1. It's going to dictate a lot of things. I think that if he is trying to get a little bit more, if aiming for P2s would be my advice more than anything, to be quite honest with you. Yes. Tyler probably have a different answer, but in my head, it would be aiming for P2s.
I'd say for me, it just really depends on, are you done with stretch? What's the flower time of that cultivar, right? Is it a 10, 11 weeker? Is it something that's going to continue to stretch maybe to like day 28, day 30? If it is, probably not jumping into P2s yet, because I'm trying to really limit the amount of water those plants are getting, keep it in that generative steer. But I think, it's like Adam said, what are you intending to do? Do you need a little bit more stretch? Are you done with stretch at this point? And just kind of making that decision based off what your goals are and where you're at, and also the cultivar that you have.
Yeah, the parameters of everything, really.
I'm gonna chime in here. Totally agree with both of you. You're gonna have to look at one of my most favorite crop registration pieces of data, and that's plant height. Just to dial things in. If you don't have your plant height at the end of veg, it's going to be hard to know when you've stopped hitting stretch. It's going to be hard to know when you should be implementing these P2 events or cutting P2 events. So if you have any ability to take some plant heights, make sure you get them at the end of veg, first day of flower. You need to know how tall that plant is, detailed by cultivar, detailed by how many days you've been in veg, some of those parameters. And this is what's going to give you the dials when things get a little bit messy. So it pretty much anybody, when things go as planned, it's not that hard to cultivate, right? Like, yeah, okay, it's fucking hard, but when things get messy, that's the one that separates the really expert people in this industry versus the other ones. The ones that are like, hey, something unplanned happened, we're gonna have to turn this dial to get back onto schedule. And when you have as much space as you guys do, those dials get smaller and smaller. You don't get the option of saying, hey, I want to run the flower cycle for 3 extra days because we screwed up in veg, 2 or 3 months ago. So take your plant heights.
Knitted that together full circle. I absolutely love all 3 of your answers because it absolutely depends what your intentions are, what you're trying to do with the plant. It absolutely is a question of, how long you want that plant to stretch, the cultivar, what it's capable of, what it likes being run. Because I've had definitely some that love to stretch a little bit into that 30-day window, and some that just, they're done at, day 12 and they won't get any taller. And I think that Jason hit it right on the head there to kind of knit it all together. If you don't take those plant heights, you don't necessarily know what characteristics or what levers you're pulling are affecting the change that you're actually getting out of the plant physiologically, and why you're going to pull one lever versus another and add that P2 shot when you decide that cultivar is done stretching versus, not. Are you throwing a dart at the wall, or are you making an informed decision based on taking notes?
Amen. Observation and note taking.
Yeah, and then obviously tapping into resources to understand what is the effect of this, right? So let's say, we were treating our plant the same the entire cycle, right? We could graph our plant height. We'd have some very predictable plant height at each segment in that cycle. Obviously, as we start pushing things and playing with that plant physiology, obviously the cool term crop steering that we're doing with it, that's really the goal, is to say, how do we get more out of what we're already doing, right? So when we think of, well, this is the control plant height throughout the cycle. Oh, maybe we need it a little bit taller. Maybe we need it a little bit shorter. Maybe we need to induce flowering earlier so that we can bulk out those buds for a longer period of time and really get those weights. I just seeing some of the comments here. They're saying the podcast helped me go from 2.0 to 3.4 pounds a light. Thanks, Arroya. Great example there, right? So digging into the resources that you can, whether that be these conversations online, somebody that a friendly grower that's doing these things, seeking out resources such as the CRC online, some of the documentation that they're publishing, hitting up one of Cian's favorite books out there, getting into what is it, the CCI book. Any of this stuff is a great place to spend your time, and as long as you're absorbing it and you have the ability to do some of that limited liability learning, it's always going to pay off in the end.
100%. Well, let's take this into the next question here. Got an interesting one from Hash Bros Farms about an odd dryback behavior he's observing. I assume that he's saying this from the standpoint of having in situ sensors. So that's the way it reads a little bit. So my EC behavior during dryback, it's odd. It starts going up and then it drops while it's still drying back. Anyone know what's happening here?
I say that's
plant's eating. Yeah. That's a hungry plant is what you got there. You've got something that is insatiable. You need to either up that EC, or up the EC at the end of the day, truthfully.
Thought that might be a good one for you guys, since we started out the conversation talking about the upping that feed a little bit today when we first jumped on.
For sure. Yeah. Tyler, you want to chime in on that, or?
I was going to say, we feed a 4 EC, that's what we start at early flower, right? And it helps us just stack pretty early on, and we're really kind of limiting that we're limiting our runoff, really pushing those drybacks to stack that EC. So, we've seen that time over time, and I'm not going to say it couldn't be like something going on with your sensor, or, maybe you need to just readjust it, put it in a different pot and see what's going on. But if you're finding that it's pretty consistent that your plant is drying back and your EC is going down, got to find a way to stack that EC, whether it's limiting your runoff, up in your EC value to start, or, maybe doing something a little bit different than what you are today.
So I'm going to jump in with a couple of few details here. So, first they said, okay, their EC is going up a little bit. A lot of times we see this based on sensor height and that substrate, especially with rock wool, because it acts like a vertical column with a little bit of vacuum behind it. We're going to be washing some accumulated salts past that sensor. So every once in a while we do see that little EC rise, even if our plants are eating up nutrients faster than we're supplying them. So when we think about the water content decreasing in the substrate, if our salts are also decreasing, that means we're getting no salt accumulation, right? And we, through every cycle in the stages, we probably want to avoid that for a couple of reasons. One, if we have any starvation to the plant, we're much more likely to see a nutrient imbalance. We're almost always better off supplying a little bit of excess of nutrients than running out of one specific ion cation in that solution. So that's going to help keep your pH in check. Going to help you also maintain low levels of runoff, right? So we're not washing salts through, that type of stuff. So when we think about, well, if our ECs are too low, how much are we leaving on the table by trying to save some nutrients?
Not worth it, in my opinion. At the end of the day,
the nutrient price it's got to be negligible comparatively to what you're leaving on the table in your yield there.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt.
I think when I had mentioned that to you guys, one of the specific topics that we were working with was photo bleaching in one of the rooms. And I was like, oh, you could try a little bit higher EC. Like, you guys were already in a pretty reasonable range of ECs. Like, for the most part, I would say feeding at 4.0 is a pretty good number, like as far as on the high end. That's definitely on the high end of what I work with and I recommend to clients. I think you guys were in a pretty good range already, but when we saw photo bleaching, I was like, oh, let's just give it a little bit more. And glad to hear that things are working for you.
But it wasn't purely the bleaching that curbed at the end of the day. Truthfully, it was a lot of things. I mean, we were facing deficiencies. Overall plant health and vigor actually improved exponentially. I mean, yeah, we're pushing a hair more runoff than what I was intending to do initially. But that 4.0, the jump made a big difference, and also the ratio changes. We're not running just out of the book. We kind of tweaked ratios to meet our needs and really address any of the shortcomings, if you will.
So maybe I've got a viewer question. What are some of the analytical processes that you're using to detail to make those changes, improvements in your nutrient ratios?
It was at the end of the day, it was observance. It was observing what was going on in the rooms. It was growth rates. It was stacking. It was overall vigor. It was general plant health. End of the day, it was indicative of, first off, improvement, but secondly, it was across the board without any, other changes needed, if you will. That was the variable tweaked, whereas no other things were needed, and what you saw was an instantaneous difference.
And some at the time, Jason, too, just something to note is, we were running a Linnaeus light, I believe it was the Helix, I think is what it's called. I have to go back and look, but it's like a 72% red at the 660 nanometer wavelength, right? And that was most of the spectrum. So when you looked in the room, it was similar to the Lux ADRs. It was just a pink hue, a red hue everywhere. And that caused a lot of photo bleaching in a lot of the cultivars and the strains we were running. Some strains could handle it. Our concrete jungle could take that red at 1400 ppfd, and I think that speaking to that ppfd, I think that's one of the reasons why we do push our EC so high is we're running what we consider to be a pretty heavy crop steering program, to where we've since tapered down a little bit, but there was a time we were hitting 1600 ppfd and doing it fairly successfully. It depends on the cultivar. Some cultivars obviously kind of shit the bed at that when you're really running at that high parameter, but as we bumped up our temperatures, our humidity, and started running more of what I would consider like LED style environments rather than traditional HPS. At one time we were running 77 degrees in most of the rooms at max, and now we hit 83, 84, sometimes upwards of 85, depending on that leaf surface temperature and the VPD we're aiming for. So really just dialing in our environments, getting rid of those lights and bumping that EC, since we're pushing so hard, we have seen a big benefit in our plants, not having that red stem, not being phosphorus or potassium deficient, and just, I don't know, really kind of pushing the boundaries of what's capable for ourselves at times.
One thing I want to call attention to is that you guys have a pretty solid understanding of plant physiology, morphology, and it sounds like, plant biology in general. And I want to ask, are you guys I don't know what the correct term for classically educated is in those types of roles, but
we're autodidacts. It's Tyler and I have talked about it. Nate talks about it. We all talk about it. We've sifted through the wide array of things out there really to gain the knowledge. It hasn't been a formal education in any sense. It was, taught by doing, taught by the streets, taught by action. And at the end of the day, sifting through the experience, taking along what's needed, leaving what's not, and moving on to the next thing, and continuing to kind of build that skill set, build those tools to get you there, rather than what would be a classic, plant biology formal education.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, I almost dropped out of high school, didn't go to college, and I've been kind of growing cannabis since I was 20 years old. And, for 8 years when I started growing cannabis, that supported my life entirely. and I was trying to be an audio engineer. I was trying to do a couple of different things at the time just to support and have something else going on. But no, cannabis has kind of been my entire life. So just going through the trials and tribulations of that and just having to make sure I can provide and have, what I need to survive just off cultivation, I think has forced me to adapt, forced me to survive and just get better with pushing the limits. So that way, I can have the quality and the yield, but just got enough to continue to support myself, I think was the overall goal to start. And it's kind of led us here to where we are today.
I think that's a really cool story to hear, Jason.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was going back and looking at to see when I first got in contact with you guys back in, must have been early 21. I think it was when you picked up your Arroyo system, maybe summer of 21.
I think so, yeah. Like right on time first started.
Yeah, you had a guy working for you that was trying to do some integration stuff. And it's funny that you said audio engineering because I'd picked out, like I was on a video call with him. I was like, is that a Axe effects in the background? And he's like, what? Yeah. And I was like, this is cool. Like, once we're on the same ground, it's really easy to work toward the same goals with these people. And so I that's kind of what stood out with me was even before, I knew what you guys were doing with the system. You had people working on the staff to try and get more out of it even.
Yeah, I think you're specifically mentioning Jeffrey. We don't work with him quite as close anymore, but he's kind of what helped us get a lot of our IT stuff or infrastructure off the ground in that data sense. He helped kind of build or get us going on our ERP system, and our team has really taken it and run with it since then. But yeah, he helped it get it off the ground and kind of start paving the path, putting the blocks down for it.
It's awesome. I think this showcases a couple of things. And one of the coolest ones that I really love is that you guys are, walking the walk in the sense that, like you said, you don't have the formal university education, the plant biology degrees. You just came at this and put your passion into it. And you guys dedicated yourself to learning what it was that you were doing forward and backward, in and out. And it shows. And I think that that's an encouraging thing to anyone looking to get into this industry that, is sitting there looking down the barrel. That's like, I have to have a plant biology degree in order to be able to jump into this and, have a shot. And I tell people on a regular basis, it helps, but it's definitely not the deciding factor in whether or not you're going to be able to enter this industry and learn what you need to know to be successful. So I really love that part of your guys' story and think that that's a valuable thing to showcase to people who are looking to get into this.
I couldn't agree more, actually. Even to take it one step further, about 3 months ago, we completed our tissue culture lab. And so for really the past 2.5 years, Nate Foley, cultivation manager, and myself, we've been kind of beating our heads against the tissue culture wall. We started off with the Athena tissue culture kit, first steps, baby steps. But we realized real quick we needed way more knowledge and we needed a way bigger boat to deal with what we were planning on doing. So 3 months ago, we completed the lab. It's now a fully functioning TC lab. We will be bringing out meristem tissue cultures here within the next 3 to 4 weeks for propagation purposes for our mom stock. And to be completely candid with you, neither Nate nor I, or for this matter, Cian, now who's in the lab, we're not classically trained in any of that. My classical training is in artwork and sculpture. It means in many ways, pursuit of perfection and falling short is really what we tried to do constantly. And that's what allowed us to get the TC lab off the ground. It's also, the place we work in, Tyler talked about it earlier. It's the opportunities presented, being here. That's one of those, there is no stone left unturned, by the company to achieve the goals needed at the end of the day. You're not reliant upon a degree. There's many things you can learn just by doing it. Truthfully, experiential learning.
Absolutely love it. Mimics my own path into the industry as well. I mean, I went to college for finance and community recreation programming. So, nothing to do with what I'm doing today.
Right.
But, that wasn't a predictor of whether or not I could be successful learning the application that I was pursuing. And so I always like to encourage people with that. And I love that your guys' stories mimic that path as well.
Oh, you were using some of that finance getting the product out the door, man.
I'm not going to say it didn't help.
Yeah, I gotta say it's the passion that stands out with you guys. That's what's shining. Anybody can succeed if they're very passionate about something and they're willing to put the hard work in to get that passion somewhere. So, such an inspiring story to have you guys here on the show.
That's what I love about cannabis. Not to steer it back to what we were talking about, but you mentioned how many people are kind of scared to get into this industry or think that they have to have some kind of plant biology degree or a master's degree in something. And I think it's really just being willing to take a risk, experiment. Being willing to find out what works and maybe do some growing on your own, get some experience under your belt growing at home, or get some experience growing with some friends or in a different market, and use that experience to build your resume and leverage that in your interviews. And talk through it. Find a operator out here who is willing to give people a chance and kind of operate similar to the way we do. I think there's a lot of opportunity in cannabis still, and you just really have to seize it. Right. I think that's the biggest thing we've all done. It's just been willing to roll the dice a little bit, step into a role that maybe is a little bit undefined or unwalked before, and trying to walk it the best way that we can.
Yeah. And leverage the knowledge that you do have. The first cannabis facility that I worked directly in, that was the only cannabis facility that I'd ever seen. And I got in there from the technology standpoint. Really kind of, I walked in there, I was like, this is amazing. I got to work here. What landed me a position doing compliance, security, and automation. Right. And that was back in 2017. The amount of plant biology, social skills that I've built since then, it just all came with leverage and the knowledge and the skill set that was kind of my primary and helped support the growth of those others.
Yeah, got your foot in the door, right?
That's right.
I think that's what it's all about. And I think, opportunities like what you guys are probably going to be coming up with shortly here with your expansion plans for people are just that type of door into the industry, and I think that you guys creating the type of community culture you have with your staff, that's the way to be able to really, I think, sell that to people who are out there right now who might be on the fence about whether or not they want to try and jump into a career in this industry. There are cultivators out there that are like you guys, that are passionate about what they do, that make this a huge priority for themselves, both running a business that puts out quality product and taking care of their employees and making sure that everyone wants to come into work the next day.
It's one of the most important things. Yeah, it's one of the most important things here. We talk about work-life balance, but more than anything, coming in here, it shouldn't be a drudgery. Your job shouldn't be a drudgery every day. And in here, truthfully, it's one of those. I love coming to work. I think I can speak to virtually everybody in here. It's something completely different. And yeah, for folks that are looking to get into the industry, you make it what it is at the end of the day too. Let's be real. It's hard to change the tide sometimes, but if you work hard enough, you can make a little bit of headway.
I think that's a great way to put it. Some of the most successful people I've met in this industry, they definitely don't have a plant biology degree, and they certainly aren't going to be wearing a suit anytime soon, but they love what they do, and they come to work ready to work hard every single day they go.
Some of the most successful places that I've been in, they have happy people in some of the less pleasurable parts of the job. As you guys were talking about, you're a janitor, maybe more often than not, probably more often than you want to be. But it's those steps that really give you the benefits as to what you do.
Well, guys, you've had almost, I would imagine, probably a tenth of your employees that have jumped on today to comment how much they love their job and how much they enjoy coming into work every day. So well done. Because like awesome. I said, the unbidden enthusiasm and accolades are rare to come by from the bottom going up. So well done. I think I got to wrap us up for the day. We're starting to run into our time limit, but it's been awesome having you guys on today. This is exactly what I hoped for, bringing you guys on, and the conversation's been so much fun.
Appreciate the opportunity. Cian, it's a pleasure to meet you. Jason, always a pleasure to see you again. Hopefully we can have you guys out at the facility sooner than later. Come see what we're doing. But no, it's been a pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, and to all watching. Genuinely, listen to Arroyo. That's the truth. The office hours live. It's something that definitely delivers on the necessary information, but also just you guys do a great job of delivering it to people, telling them the truth, unabashed. So.
Yeah, thanks, guys. They run such a good team there at Certified that I think they even have like a little watch party on the staff right now. So everyone's chiming in. Great job, guys.
Big ups to the squad in total. Truthfully, though, like I hate to steal an extra second here, but every department in this building, it's an amazing squad from top to bottom, ownership on down, administration, and all the teams, all the departments. They genuinely every day they kill it. They really, really kill it. So.
Well, you guys are running a fantastic operation over there. I'm sure Jason and I will both feel very lucky to come out and visit you guys if we can get out there soon. Everyone watching today, thank you guys for jumping on, watching episode 138 of Arroyo Office Hours Live. Tyler, Adam, thank you guys so much. Everyone from Certified Cultivators that jumped on and chimed in today, thank you guys. And can't wait to come out and see you guys in person. Sounds like that is going to be one of the best facilities I've ever seen, at very least in the culture, if nothing else. You know what I mean? Gromies, if you want to learn more about Arroyo, book a demo at arroyo.io, and our team will show you the ins and outs of the ultimate cannabis cultivation platform. If you've got crop steering or cultivation questions, always drop them in the Arroyo app. Email us at sales@arroyo.io. Slide into our DMs on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. We'd love to throw those questions in. I'm watching on the weekly basis, trying to work those questions into our lineup. So put them in there. I'll definitely try not to miss them. And then if you're digging the podcast, as always, leave us a review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you guys are catching us today. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care, all. Later, Jason. Later, Cian.